Now I'd like to introduce our speakers, Jari and Elli. The Jari Lähdevuori is creative director and partner at Curio. After years of consulting at Hill & Knowlton, Jari co-founded Curio to build a bridge between traditional and social media. He has received international awards for his work with clients from various fields and sizes, from startups to Fortune 500 companies such as Microsoft, Nestle, and Nokia. Jari enjoys everything from creative work to strategic planning and keynote speaking, which he has done at Cannes Lions, Eurobest, and others. Elli Tuominen is strategy director and partner at Curio. Elli has a strong view and passion for building brands, especially with new tools such as social media and AI. In her previous agencies, like TBWA, and in Curio, she's worked with Fortune 500 companies and the biggest advertisers in the Nordics, such as Volkswagen, Microsoft, Arla, and Philips. Elli has received various acclaimed industry awards for her work and has been selected among the top speakers in Finland, listed by Speakers Forum. Today, Jari and Elli will walk us through the fast-moving world of social media. They'll reveal the findings of their new Social Media Marketing Trends 2021 report, created in conjunction with us at the Network One and 16 social media experts from leading global independent agencies all around the world. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to turn over to Jari and Elli.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Huge thanks, Stephanie, and huge thanks to Julian as well, and for everyone who has joined us today.
Welcome.
Yeah, that was quite a many words about us too, since we're only the messengers here today.
Exactly.
All the credit goes to the amazing expert who joined forces for this report, but we're more than glad to be presenting them here today.
Indeed. Welcome everyone and greetings from a blizzard Helsinki. It's freezing in here and we would rather be in London with Stephanie and Julian or anywhere else basically, but here we are. But yeah, as mentioned, we are a social media agency coming from Helsinki, but working with global clients such as Microsoft and Nestle and Unilever and so on. But besides client work, we try to focus also on covering some trends and where the world is going and where social media is headed. And as you probably know, 2020 was a rocking year for social, and we thought this would be the perfect time to being an independent agency, reach out to the Network One agencies and gather a global view on the trends of social. And we did, and we have a fantastic report. Thanks to everyone in Network One who pitched in.
Yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. In case you don't see our slides at the moment, do say something, Julian or Stephanie, and we'll fix that.
It's all good, thank you.
Splendid.
Splendid.
Okay, so as Julian briefly described, this research was done in collaboration with 16 amazing agencies from the Network One, with 18 experts, all coming from a little bit different backgrounds, looking at social media from a little bit different points of views. Huge thanks to David, Josh, Simon, Kevin, Theresa, Kay, Victoria, Michelle, Joshua, James, Oana, Danny, Babs, Erin, Friday, Felix, Aziz, and Sean for sharing their insights during the busy times of December, when everyone is trying to close the books and finish the year and all that. A little bit about how this research was compiled, just so you know how everything was put together and so forth. So I did some interviews with each of the respondents, and they were coming from totally different markets and, as mentioned, different sorts of agencies. So ones that are focusing more on insights and research, ones that are mainly focusing on advertising, ones that are mainly focusing on digital or social even. So totally different points of views. and ranging from countries as diverse as China and USA to South Africa and Romania. So for us, at least, that makes this report superbly valuable, since, as we all know, social is rather a local thing. So if you're doing social media activities here in Helsinki, in Finland, for example, versus you're doing them in Tokyo, Japan, there are many differences, whether it comes to channels or ways of using them. So it is really valuable to really get the global insights and then try and make that as relevant as it is to you and your markets, whether that is in Europe or Asia or wherever. And also, one of the things that we really enjoyed doing this is that as members of the thenetworkone, we feel that, as many of you presumably also, that the independents don't always get the spotlight when it comes to these sorts of reports. So really giving the stage to the independents and get their valuable insights. We felt that that was a great and important one to really tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of background before we go into the findings, which we have comprised into 7 key trends for the upcoming year, or the year that has already started. A little bit of why you should, in the first place, be interested in the social media trends for this 2021 year.
Yep. Yeah, mainly due to the pandemic. And of course, the change was kind of happening already, but the pandemic increased the speed monumentally. So it has been a record year for social in basically all aspects. For example, the usage growth, annual growth in users is up more than 12%. This is statistics from October from 2020. So big increase there.
And half the population is on social.
Yeah.
So that's a huge number also to know.
And the time spent on social is nearing 15% of the time that we spend awake. So that's big, and it's on the rise. Even though it has always been big, it's still on the rise. And if we look at the increase that the pandemic caused in the use of social between different age groups, it's really actually interesting to see that the younger age groups were the ones who increased their social media time even more than the older age groups. That's mainly probably due to the fact that school and their hobby activities were not allowed, so they didn't have basically anything else to do than hang in social. But still, this is a trend that will carry for the years to come, because that's the age group that is now learning to use even more channels, TikTok and everything, and they will stick to those channels for the years to come. And yeah, from marketing point of view, one thing that was really significant last year was the decrease in the prices for paid social. And this was a historic decrease that we saw across all our global clients and across all platforms. And the drops in the CPM prices are from 20% to even 30%, depending a bit on the market. And this is still due to the fact that, for example, this study done by Work, this was in June, said that marketers, even though they were cutting their marketing budgets overall, the biggest shift went still towards social and online channels. And even though the pandemic did affect the budgets overall, social and online still did see almost a double-digit increase. And the fact that the CPM numbers still went down with marketers still spending more on their budgets towards social only tells that the inventory grew even more. So there's no mistaking that the inventory on social between the platforms is now bigger than ever. And of course, this is also can be seen in world-class marketing, and one view for that is of course the Cannes Lions, which we've been studying for many years now, the role of social in the winning work in the marketing field. And this is up now almost 90%. So the role of social in many ways is bigger than ever.
So for those reasons, anyone should be interested in making the most of social media in 2021. So with that being said, let's go into the 7 key trends. Number 1, shoppable social becomes unstoppable. We've had the privilege to get some video greetings from our experts also, which we'll share with you here, starting with James Ebert, the Managing Director of Highlink UK, telling us a little bit about this trend.
Hello, my name is James Hebert. I'm Managing Director of Highlink UK. We're the first native Chinese agency to move from the east to west and set up here in London. Now, in the past, China looked west to copy innovation, but what we're seeing now are the tables are turning and the West looking to China for what the future holds in social media and digital innovation. Take live streaming e-commerce. This is the trend which we see marketers getting most excited about. To give you an idea of the power of e-commerce live streams, there are some heavy hitter KOL influencers in China, such as Via, known as the queen of Chinese live streaming. She hit a record 37 million views in 2020. Makeup artist Austin Lee once sold 15,000 lipsticks in only 5 minutes. And during Singles Day, which is a shopping phenomenon in China, the world's largest e-commerce shopping festival, there are over 30 live stream channels on Taobao Live, generating $15 million in sales. Now, COVID-19 has acted as a catalyst for live streaming e-commerce, and it's now crucial for brands and a part of their strategies to remain relevant and help drive sales. We actually have some clients who rely heavily on live streaming e-commerce to play a major part of their revenue target. So moving forward, we'll continue to see live streaming e-commerce play a key role in digital marketing strategies, not only in China, but we predict also in the West.
But not only did this point of view come from James, but also many other of our experts, really emphasizing that e-commerce in total has really peaked during the past year, and it will be even more so in the upcoming year. How social media is playing a key role, especially if we're looking at China and other Asian markets. And the buzzword really seems to be the live streaming e-commerce. And for that, we may look into China for great examples of how that can be done and how they are doing it already. As a tidbit of information here from Statista, there are now 713 million social commerce users in China, and the industry has grown 66% in the past year. So those numbers are staggering. A little bit of a point of view from We Are Social and Hootsuite's study yet again about e-commerce in general. So we know that at this point of day, at this day and age, 9 out of 10 people globally have visited an online store in the past month, and half of them have purchased via mobile. Now, if we think about the social commerce, it's been mainly done with mobile devices, since social media usage is mainly mobile these days. We see that e-commerce adoption per country looks like this. So the leading countries, there are everything from Indonesia to UK to Malaysia to Germany. But if we look at the mobile e-commerce adoption, we see that the Asian countries are truly dominating here. So for that reason also, it is key to look to East and see the trends for this. Now, when we divide this into age groups, we see that all age groups do exercise e-commerce, but when it comes to mobile e-commerce, there is a great difference between the age groups. So yet again, the younger ones are leading this trend too, and also the trend when it comes to social shopping. Moving on to the next trend, TikTok keeps reeling in. And for this, we have Danny Pinch from King James Group from South Africa sharing his views.
Hello from Cape Town. So I was asked to just highlight one of the trends we've been looking at for 2021, and I think a really interesting one that we saw, it's been going for a while, but I think it's really gathering pace, is what we're describing as the TikTokification of social, which means really a kind of an aesthetic shift. And I think we've seen it in TikTok content, but it's spreading into many other social platforms, certainly seeing it across Instagram and Twitter, which is a much looser aesthetic. So it means instead of that very crafted, curated, almost perfected look that we used to see on Instagram, we're seeing something that feels much more spontaneous, that has a kind of quick creativity to it, and feels very more human. But I think really the kind of epicenter of creativity for social for me is what's happening on TikTok and how that's kind of spreading elsewhere. So I think in terms of brand content, if we want to be talking the language of many of our consumers, we need to be looking at a looser aesthetic, certainly dropping a more kind of corporate advertising style way of communicating, because I think it will quickly stand out as a little alien on social these days.
So if there was one word that really stood out from all the answers and all the interviews, it was TikTok.
TikTokification and TikTokification.
Definitely.
TikTokification. You heard it here first.
Yeah, indeed. There are many great quotes in the report, so we totally encourage you to download it. We'll have the link at the end of the presentation, so go and dive deeper into these great points that all of our experts were making about it. But TikTok is presumably very well known to all of our listeners today. Few facts about the usage rates, work data.
Yeah, looking at the spend that marketers are planning for 2021, which is of course something of great interest for us agencies. Just behind the three big established ones, YouTube, Google, and Instagram, just a bit behind, there is TikTok. So if you're looking through your clients, for example, think about this. This is a big shift in marketing spend.
And most of you know that the usage rates have really gone up, and especially in, let's say, the Western world, as we can see from these graphs by eMarketer, the markets in Asia, they were already more saturated, but 2020 really blew the market for TikTok here in the West. Putting that into a bit more perspective, we can definitely see that even though it has really picked up pace with the monthly active users, it is still lagging behind the really big ones. But it's gaining momentum with regards to, for example, Instagram. So who knows if we'll see this year that TikTok might even surpass Instagram in user rates. Trend number 3, live streaming. Few points about live streaming from our experts' quotes. 2020 also made us realize that live streaming in social media are not designed exclusively for news stations and gamers, by David from 180 Heartbeats, Jungwon Matt. What Oana from Jazz Communication emphasized is that once we have all been accustomed to live streaming in our working life or whatever. It makes us more comfortable using that and consuming that in many ways. And there are many ways in which brands can really tap into this. A little bit of factoid here, 34% of all internet users are gaming or social media live streamers. A huge number, that too, something to think about. And of course, yet again, this too is something that the Asian markets are way ahead of, let's say, the European ones. Now, next we'll have 3 points about influencer marketing, which was one of the key topics that we discussed with our experts. 3 really interesting points regarding that. First, we'll start with a bit of a classic one, but one that has really emphasized during the past year and will grow even more in its importance during the upcoming year. So authenticity. Here from David Kazmierczak.
What does it mean to be an influencer in the post-COVID reality? In my opinion, we have a chance to change the meaning of the word influencer. If we do it, it will be good not only for the clients, but also for the huge part of content that we will consume by both the communities from the social media and whole society as well. Those who understand that in 2031, this is the end of influencers who are the personification of billboards, who do not represent any added value, such as passion, social mission, commitment to the fight against the fake news or education. Those who understand that, they will join in creating a more sustainable social media world. It's our responsibility to take care of it, just like we take care of ourselves or our planet. We and our clients really have a chance to do it if we realize our role in promoting and creating today's internet heroes.
Super inspiring.
What does it?
So moving from, this is a shift that we've seen grow in importance over the past 2 years or so. The growing importance of the micro and even the nano influencers. And here, James Herbert really puts it in nice words when it comes to China, and how they are moving from key opinion leaders to key opinion consumers, which really emphasizes the shift in many ways. So authenticity yields influence, and we should strive for that. One factoid here, 25% of all consumers are more likely to source news updates and opinions from influencers than journalists and established news outlets. Once again, if we source our news from influencers, it also means that whatever marketing communication stuff we might want to express to our target groups, we might as well use influencers, since there's great potential to getting that message through way better than the more traditional outlets. Another very interesting thing that came up in various interviews was that influencer collaborations go longer term than they have. Here from Kevin Fernandez from Adelis.
Influencer marketing has come a long way since the beginning of 2020. The pandemic forced brands to quickly pivot, but expectations for high quality advertising didn't disappear. Instead, marketers leaned more heavily into content creators who are used to working from home to create high quality reactive content. Hence, influencer marketing was thrown into the advertising spotlight this year, with more marketers putting their faith into multi-channel influencer campaigns and seeing the benefit of the vast array of creative content influencers can offer. As the industry continues to scale and diversify, and budgets are increasingly being redirected from offline to online, its wider social responsibility also increases. This will force the sector to look again at regulation, diversity, tighter restrictions on ROI, and creativity for the year ahead to ensure it continues to mature in the right direction. For those reasons, I anticipate influencers being used more frequently in 2021. Influencer marketing.
And as Kevin put it in words in the interviews, that the one-off strategy the days of the one-off strategy are over now. So really, when thinking about influencer collaborations, try and look at a longer term partnerships, At least that's what we've found really fruitful with our clients here, and we've made some annual contracts already with some clients and some influencers. So yeah, when it comes to facts backing this trend up, we can easily see that it isn't that easy to find those right influencers for marketers. So when you do find them, try and stick with them, so it really pays off. And the third point when it comes to influencers is that the influencers are to also influence our strategies and even our creative ideas. Here is Victoria from Day One Agency.
One of the trends we're going to see this year is influencers being brought in much earlier on in the planning process as strategists, advising brands, not just creators anymore responding to brand briefs, but really helping to shape and shift brand marketing strategies and content. So look out for that in 2021, as well as creator collectives advising brands.
So whether it's influencers as strategists or the briefs that we give to influencers becoming more complex and really needing some creative input from them also, or then how to always try and say no to one-offs and really stick only to those influencer collabs when the fit is very right for the idea and for the brand. We see that influencers have a more strategic role in the campaign planning also. And as a general point of view from work, yet again, influencer marketing is something that marketeers all over the world are really putting their budgets behind.
Almost neck and neck with online display, for example. So yet again, some big shifts happening budget-wise also.
So altogether, influencer marketing becoming more strategic for brands. And the seventh trend that we would highlight here is that the post-purpose world of marketing will be social first. So really emphasizing the need for brands on social to become purpose-driven, but also those brands that are really purpose-driven find it that social media is presumably the best place or media to really showcase that because of its transparency, its real-timeness, and all that. Here's Teresa from Barclay.
This is Teresa from Barclay, US. So consumers are more so than ever invested in the brands that they're buying. You know, through the last year, brands have been really tasked with pushing out authentic and transparent content across their channels because consumers are demanding this of them. More so than ever, consumers are doing their research with brands that they're choosing to spend their money with. And this is transparency about how the products are made, the people that work for these companies, and forcing brands to even take an initiative and take a stance on societal and economic issues. So we really have a responsibility as marketers to force the brands that we're working for to be their true selves and to stay authentic to who they are until the consumers really understand who they are, because these type of things that make companies move forward with authenticity and transparency is really what forges the connection between the consumer and brands.
And as mentioned, there is a great overlap with the trend of purpose-driven marketing and social media marketing because, well, the transparency is what Teresa was there highlighting too. One of the key things why it makes sense to use social for your purpose-driven marketing efforts. And it's of course something that the consumers are looking forward to from brands these days. During the pandemic, we saw a shift even more towards this direction that we are looking for brands to solve the problems and be ethical and so forth. And those of you who are familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer know that in that research, there has been a significant trend towards this belief-driven buying when it comes to purchase decisions, as can be seen from this graph here. So 2/3 of the global consumers are what they call belief-driven buyers. So for that reason, do stick with your purpose-driven plans and try and make the most of social media for that. Now there you have the 7 key findings, 7 key trends. Now, in addition to these, the trend report has, as mentioned, all of those interviews. So if there was some expert on those videos or on those quotes that really kind of like
Caught your interest.
Yeah, do go and check that out from the report.
Yep.
I will quickly just put the link here so you can find it easily. Of course, you can presumably find it just by Googling, but there you go with the shortened link for that. But now I think we can move on to the Q&A session. So I will just stop sharing this screen here. And should you have any questions, or should Stephanie already have your questions, do hit us.
I do indeed. So I believe that Viveka Chan is around and would like to ask a question.
Yes, thanks, Stephanie. Thank you very much. First of all, I think Jari done a great job summarizing so many things from various agencies into 7 succinct points. But I have 2 points to make. One is that you talk about TikTok, but it is part of ByteDance. So where is Douyin in here? Is it in TikTok, or is it not counted in there?
Well, it is in TikTok, basically. Yeah, that is a really good point. Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The other thing is that I think that if you want learning about how do you say this, like short video works in shoppable content, Douyin is much more advanced than TikTok because they now have a whole ecosystem. And I think that what they have successfully done is, in fact, they have already linked before you just do like interesting videos and people, oh, really great, but they have make it shoppable. And it's not just a link to, for example, in China, it's not just a link to Alibaba, but go within the Douyin system. So they have Douyin Shop, and you can buy media, Douyin Plus. So it's quite their own ecosystem altogether. So I think that is something very much to learn, which TikTok hasn't really even done yet. So I think studying Douyin is going to be very helpful for everybody.
Thank you.
And yeah, the other point I want to make is that I think there's 7 really good trends, but I think there's one that is very obvious in China that is not included here that may eventually get to the West. And that is the trend from public domain to private domain. So what this means is that in the past, in digital, what you look at is you buy search in a way. So why would people come to you? Because they search and they find you. So actually, you have to have your kind of awareness in what we call public domain. So whether it is through search, through whatever, but now because it is too expensive. So what people are doing is using the traffic from public domain and drive to what we call private domain. So it's like driving from Alibaba, which is advertising that you buy. Basically, Alibaba is advertising to like WeChat, which is your private domain. So you can retarget and without having to pay again. So this is what a lot of brands are starting to do. We're also doing a lot of that. And why it is so popular, it's like CRM in the old days. But the difference is that when I did CRM in the year 2000, it's very expensive. You have to set up your own system, IBM software, hardware, unless you have Volkswagen, you can't do it. But now it is free. because WeChat it's got all the functions. So as long as you know how to do it. So I think eventually this is also going to be a very important digital trend that's going to happen.
Some really, really interesting and superb points there. Thank you, Viveka. And
thank you.
And just for those reasons, this report needed to be done just to get those insights to be shared and spread with the network. Thank you. Really, really good points, and some of them presumably were there in the discussions and interviews, but the last one also a really great one. Thank you.
Thanks. So we have another question. Someone has said, do the panelists, okay, you too, anticipate that the potential for increased regulation of social media platforms in the US will influence brand content and marketing in general globally? If so, what should marketers do to prepare for increased regulation in social media?
Well, I think Viveka's point really really made a good counter argument.
Exactly.
If we're looking at
the other side of the story.
If we're looking at the global perspective here, but that of course also emphasizes the need for looking at it through local lenses when doing something, because maybe there is a shift going on where the EU is trying to set some regulations and laws, and some of them may be then something that the US companies need to comply to, but the Chinese ones are doing something, and then when they become popular in the Western world, they then need to follow some of the same rules that the Western players are using. So I would recommend just to keep an eye out for where it is actually headed, as long as it is still just speculations. Maybe some of the things are so that you can start preparing for them, but mainly I would suggest that you just keep an eye out for whatever the changes are actually happening and when they are, and what is the actual extent to how it actually then changes the ecosystems. But yeah, there are some major laws and regulations that are being either planned or already imposed, if that's the word. But yeah, those will be interesting for the upcoming year, something that really wasn't touched upon in the report.
Fantastic, thank you. So another question, someone has said, hello from Kenya. Were there any new insights as to how brands were engaging with tweens and pre-adolescents on social? This is because of the age gating on most of these platforms, even if this demographic seems to be on some of them, TikTok as an example locally.
I'm thinking here if there were. I don't believe there were any that were superbly focused on that. Of course, some of the interviews somehow highlighted that matter of reaching the more younger groups, and mostly those discussions were around presumably the TikTok. In particular. But yeah, there are some changes for their age regulations also currently in the West, but keep an eye out for those, how they will change the game with, presumably it was those under 16. There were some new regulations for TikTok users. So yeah, it's a good question, and presumably TikTok would still be, at least here in the West, the channel to go to.
For that target group.
Agree, thanks. So someone else has said, Jari and Elli, you are specialists in social media and know a lot already. What surprised you most in the input you got from around the world?
That is a question that some of the Network One team also asked us. I couldn't really answer that back then, but now I will try better. Since there were so many good insights, I mean so many, and I totally encourage everyone to read the report, since the quotes and the insights are superb from the experts, and what is meaningful to me may not be meaningful to someone else, and vice versa then. But I would say that the whole live streaming e-commerce thing was really interesting to read about in so many of the experts' points of views, since at least in our markets it really hasn't been like a big thing yet, but really an eye-opener when it comes to what happens in for example China at the moment.
Personally, I am really excited on the use of influencers in marketing and developing that line of marketing into a more strategic one, because the number of influencers is growing momentumly in across all markets, and that's not something that's gonna end anytime soon. So I personally, I'm most excited about that.
And there's a great need for that, a more strategic approach to it.
Yep.
Yeah, the need is dire.
Thanks. Another question. At the start of 2020, we saw many brands happy to use rough and ready content as the pandemic spread around the world and people couldn't mix or get out and about. This created a more authentic look to content. Do you think that this look and feel will stay with us in 2021?
A really good point.
Presumably it will.
Yeah.
And that is something that many of the interviewees also highlighted in one way or another. And I personally also believe that it will. It has been kind of like bubbling under already for quite a few years now, the whole aesthetic of social media. But now doing the reasons that were very nicely expressed in the question, I think that it is to become even more relevant for the upcoming years.
Like trends like authenticity and lo-fi and everything around that. And it's really interesting from like a marketing agency and production point of view also.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another question. Do you think that there has been any loss of trust in influencers as there are more influencers around the world and you're sort of more aware that they are selling? Do you believe that people are starting to get more immune to them?
Well, some studies are already showing that, and many of our experts already also said something along those lines too. So yes, there are some implications about the loss of trust for influencers, and that is exactly the reason why the trend number 4, the authenticity in your using of influencers. So then again, it's also a matter of where you compare it to. So if you compare it to like 5 years back when influencer marketing was just like bubbling under, but then if you look like 5 years from now, it's going to be more mainstream and like have bigger budgets, and then I don't think this debate is going to be that relevant actually anymore. It's more going to be like whether the influencer represents the right values with their other content and how's the idea and how's the insight. Basically the same discussion around all marketing communications activities. So I personally feel that debate is not going to be that relevant actually for the years to come. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah. So the right influencer for the right brand is more important than thinking about the trust per se.
Yep, everyone's gonna know they are doing marketing for a livelihood, and that's fair.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Right, I think we are out of time for the questions now. So what I'm going to do is share your details on the screen, and so if anyone has any other questions that you didn't have a chance to ask, then you can apologies. Sorry. Excuse me, sorry, the small technical difficulty. Bear with me for one moment.
No problem.
Thank you. There we go. So if anyone didn't have a moment to ask any questions that you might want to, or if you have a more kind of specific question that you'd like to ask, you can do so by emailing either Jari at jari@curio, kurio.fi, or Elli, ELLI, at curio.fi. You can also find out more about Curio on their website, which is www.curio.fi. And as you might remember, we promised that everyone would have a link to this report. So it will be found in the chat, and we will also circulate a link to the report afterwards. And you can find it on Curio's website as well. So wanted to say a really huge thank you to Jari and Elli. That was excellent. It gave us so much to think about. I think we all learned a lot, and there's a lively chat going on as well between our members. So that's really exciting and nice to see too. We are going to be continuing the Webinar Wednesday program. As Julia mentioned, it'll be at a once a month rather than once a week. So if you'd like to keep in touch about future Webinar Wednesdays, you can check our website, which is www.thenetworkone.com/webinars. And we will also be emailing everyone when the next one is available to register for. And if you'd like to catch up with any old webinars from 2020, which I'm sure are still relevant today, just go to the same website. So it's thenetworkone.com/webinars. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you all for coming. Again, huge thank you to our wonderful speakers, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Speak to you all soon. Bye.